Right now, someone in your life is playing a power game with you, and you don't even realize it. Your boss, who casually mentions their expensive vacation while discussing your raise request. Your friend who always needs to one-up your achievements. That family member uses guilt to control family decisions. These aren't accidents. They're calculated moves in the invisible power games that govern every human interaction. Here's the disturbing reality. Every conversation you have, every relationship you maintain, and every social situation you enter is governed by an invisible hierarchy that determines who has power and who doesn't. And if you can't see these power games being played around you, you're not a player. You're a pawn. In the next 30 minutes, I will expose the hidden power structures that control your daily life, reveal the specific tactics people use to climb social hierarchies, and show you exactly how to recognize when someone is trying to manipulate your position in the social order. But I need to warn you, once you understand these power dynamics, you'll never look at human relationships the same way again. Welcome back to Shadow Psyche, where we expose the daily dark psychology tactics used against you and teach you how to protect yourself. I'm Brian, and over the past 15 years, I've studied the power dynamics that shape human behavior, the invisible hierarchies that determine who gets ahead and who gets left behind. Today, we're diving deep into the power games people play through social hierarchies. This isn't just about workplace politics or social status. It's about understanding the fundamental psychological mechanisms that drive human behavior in every context. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how social hierarchies operate, recognize the specific tactics people use to gain power over others, and have a complete framework for navigating these power dynamics without becoming a victim. Here's what makes this different from other content on social dynamics. I'm not just going to tell you what social hierarchies are. I will show you the psychological triggers that make them so powerful, reveal the specific behaviors that signal dominance and submission, and give you practical strategies for maintaining your position without playing destructive games. But first, let me be clear. This information is for protection and awareness only. We teach recognition and defense, never manipulation or exploitation of others. The hidden architecture of human power. What social hierarchies are. Social hierarchies aren't just abstract concepts studied by sociologists. They're living, breathing systems that determine your access to resources, opportunities, and even basic respect. Every group of humans, from your family to your workplace to your friend circle, automatically organizes itself into a ranked order where some people have more influence, status, and power than others. But here's what most people don't understand. These hierarchies aren't based on merit, intelligence, or even competence. They're based on psychological dominance, the ability to make others believe you deserve a higher position in the social order. This is why incompetent people often rise to positions of power, while competent individuals remain in lower positions. The neurological basis of hierarchy. Your brain is hardwired to recognize and respond to social hierarchies. When you encounter someone your brain perceives as having higher status, your stress hormone cortisol increases, making you more deferential and less likely to challenge their authority. Conversely, when you perceive someone as having a lower status, your brain releases testosterone and dopamine, making you feel more confident and dominant. This neurological response happens automatically, below your conscious awareness. Within seconds of meeting someone, your brain has already assessed their position relative to yours and adjusted your behavior accordingly. Master manipulators understand this process and deliberately trigger these responses to establish dominance. The 5 pillars of social hierarchy. Every social hierarchy is built on 5 fundamental pillars that determine your position. Economic power. Control over financial resources and the ability to provide or withhold material benefits. This isn't just about being wealthy, it's about having something others need or want. Social connections. Access to influential networks and connecting others to valuable relationships. People who can open doors for others naturally rise in social hierarchies. Information control. Possession of valuable knowledge or exclusive access to critical information. In the information age, knowledge truly is power. Emotional influence. The ability to affect others' emotional states and create psychological dependency. This is often the most powerful pillar because it operates below conscious awareness. Physical presence. The projection of confidence, authority, and dominance through body language, voice tone, and spatial positioning. This primal form of hierarchy still influences modern interactions. How hierarchies form and solidify. Social hierarchies don't emerge randomly. They follow predictable patterns. In any new group, there's typically a brief period of uncertainty where positions are fluid. During this time, individuals engage in subtle dominance displays, interrupting others, taking up more physical space, speaking with authority, making decisions for the group, and controlling the flow of conversation. Once positions are established, they become self-reinforcing. Those at the top receive more attention, their opinions carry more weight, they get better opportunities, and others defer to their judgment. This creates a feedback loop that solidifies the hierarchy and makes it increasingly difficult to change positions. The psychology of power players. Identifying the hierarchy climbers. Not everyone plays power games consciously, but certain personality types are naturally drawn to climbing social hierarchies. Understanding these types helps you recognize when someone is actively working to gain power over you. The strategic climber approaches hierarchy like a chess game. They're patient, calculating, and always thinking several moves ahead. They build alliances carefully, gather information systematically, and strike only when they're confident of success. These individuals are often the most dangerous because their moves are subtle and long-term. Watch for these behaviors. They ask probing questions to gather information about your vulnerabilities and ambitions. They offer help or favors that create subtle obligations. They become indispensable by becoming the go-to person for important information or connections. They carefully manage their image and reputation across all social contexts. The emotional manipulator uses feelings as their primary weapon. They understand that emotions override logic, creating artificial emotional states to influence your decisions and behavior. They're skilled at reading emotional cues and exploiting psychological vulnerabilities. Their tactics include creating artificial intimacy to lower your defenses, using guilt, fear, or obligation to motivate compliance, playing victim when confronted about their behavior. Alternating between emotional rewards and punishments creates dependency. The dominance displayer relies on overt shows of power and authority. They believe that appearing powerful is more important than actually being competent. They use intimidation, aggression, and status symbols to establish their position. You'll recognize them by interrupting others frequently, talking over people, using aggressive body language, invading personal space, name-dropping, displaying status symbols conspicuously, making decisions for others without consultation, speaking in absolute terms, and refusing to acknowledge other perspectives. The social chameleon adapts their personality and behavior to whatever will gain them the most advantage in each situation. They're skilled at reading social dynamics and positioning themselves optimally within any hierarchy. Their strategies involve mirroring the communication style of higher status individuals and aligning themselves with whoever has the most power in each situation, changing their opinions and values to match those of influential people, and using charm and likability to gain access to exclusive circles. How power players maintain control. Once someone achieves a higher position in the hierarchy, they use specific tactics to maintain and expand their power. Information gatekeeping. They control the flow of important information, sharing it selectively to maintain their value and influence. They become the central hub through which information flows, making others dependent on them. Alliance building. They create networks of mutual obligation and support, ensuring they have backing when their position is challenged. They're skilled at identifying who has influence and what motivates them. Scapegoating. When problems arise, they deflect blame onto lower status individuals, protecting their reputation while reinforcing the hierarchy. They're experts at avoiding responsibility while taking credit for successes. Narrative control. They shape how events are interpreted and remembered, positioning themselves favorably in all situations. They understand that perception often matters more than reality. The manipulation tactics of hierarchy warfare. The subtle art of status positioning. Most hierarchy manipulation happens through subtle signals and behaviors that operate below conscious awareness. These microaggressions and dominance displays gradually shift power dynamics without obvious confrontation. Spatial dominance involves controlling physical space to establish psychological dominance. Higher status individuals occupy more space, sit at the head of tables, stand while others sit, and position themselves centrally in group settings. They also invade others' personal space to establish dominance while maintaining larger personal space boundaries for themselves. Conversational control includes interrupting others frequently, especially those they perceive as having lower status. They change subjects when conversations don't serve their interests, speak for extended periods without interruption, and use authoritative language patterns that discourage disagreement. They also control who speaks when in group settings. Time manipulation involves making others wait while arriving late, controlling meeting schedules and agendas, taking longer to respond to communications from lower status individuals, and demanding immediate responses to their requests. The compliance ladder technique. This sophisticated manipulation tactic involves gradually increasing demands to establish a pattern of compliance. It starts with small, reasonable requests that are easy to agree to, then progressively escalates to larger, usually refused demands. The psychological principle behind this is consistency bias. Once you've agreed to small requests, your brain wants to maintain consistency by agreeing to larger ones. Each yes makes the following request seem more reasonable and makes you more likely to comply. Here's how it typically unfolds. Week 1 involves small favors that seem helpful or reasonable. Week 2 escalates to slightly larger requests that build on the previous compliance. Week 3 introduces requests that require more time or resources. Week 4 presents demands that significantly benefit the manipulator. By week 5, you're complying with requests you would have refused initially. The authority borrowing strategy. This tactic involves leveraging someone else's authority or status to gain compliance. The manipulator positions themselves as representing or speaking for someone with higher status, making it difficult to refuse their requests without appearing to challenge the higher authority. Common phrases include, The boss wants me to tell you. I was just talking to important person, and they mentioned. Everyone thinks that you should, and I'm sure authority figure would want us to. This technique is particularly effective because it removes personal responsibility from the manipulator while making refusal seem like insubordination or social defiance. Triangulation in hierarchy games. Triangulation involves bringing third parties into conflicts or negotiations to gain an advantage. The manipulator uses others as allies, witnesses, or pressure sources to strengthen their position and weaken yours. This might involve discussing your problems with others to build consensus against you, using mutual friends or colleagues to deliver messages or pressure, creating competition between people for their approval or resources, and sharing selective information with others to influence their perception of you. The goal is to isolate you from potential allies while building a coalition that supports their position in the hierarchy. The hidden costs of hierarchy games. The psychological toll on players and victims. Participating in hierarchy games, whether as an aggressor or victim, creates significant psychological stress. Those constantly fighting for position experience chronic anxiety, paranoia about threats to their status, exhaustion from maintaining their image, and difficulty forming genuine relationships. Victims of hierarchy manipulation often develop learned helplessness and reduced confidence in their abilities, chronic stress from constantly being on guard, imposter syndrome, self-doubt about their competence, and social anxiety in professional or group settings. The organizational destruction. When hierarchy games become the primary focus of a group or organization, the actual mission suffers. The energy that should go toward productivity, creativity, and collaboration gets diverted into political maneuvering and power struggles. This creates reduced innovation because people focus on politics rather than problem solving, decreased collaboration as individuals compete rather than cooperate, high turnover as people leave toxic environments, and poor decision-making. After all, the hierarchy position matters more than expertise. The relationship casualties. The most tragic cost of hierarchy games is the destruction of authentic human connections. When every interaction concerns power positioning, genuine intimacy and trust become impossible. Relationships become transactional rather than meaningful, with people valued for what they can provide rather than who they are. This creates a lonely existence where even apparent friendships are based on utility rather than genuine affection or compatibility. Breaking free from toxic hierarchies. The first step in protecting yourself from destructive hierarchy games is recognizing when you're in a toxic system. Healthy hierarchies are based on competence, experience, and contribution. Toxic hierarchies are based on manipulation, politics, and personal gain. Signs of a toxic hierarchy include decisions based on politics rather than merit, information hoarded rather than shared, people being rewarded for compliance rather than competence, and fear being used as a primary motivational tool. Now that you understand how power games operate through social hierarchies, here's your immediate action plan. Action Step 1. The Hierarchy Audit. For the next week, observe the power dynamics in your key relationships and environments. Write down who holds the real power in each situation, what tactics they use to maintain their position, how others respond to their dominant displays, and where you currently sit in each hierarchy. This awareness exercise will help you see patterns you've unconsciously responded to and identify areas where you might be vulnerable to manipulation. Action Step 2. The Power Signal Recognition. Learn to recognize the subtle signals people use to establish dominance. Please pay attention to how people position themselves physically in rooms, who speaks first and longest in group settings, whose ideas get adopted and whose get ignored, and how people's behavior changes around different individuals. Understanding these signals helps you avoid automatically deferring to dominance displays and makes you less susceptible to hierarchy manipulation. Action Step 3: The Boundary Establishment Protocol. Practice maintaining your position without playing destructive games. This involves refusing to participate in gossip or triangulation, maintaining your standards regardless of social pressure, speaking up when your boundaries are crossed, and building relationships based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. This week's challenge: practice the neutral observer technique. In your following 3 social or professional interactions, consciously observe the power dynamics without automatically responding to dominant signals. Notice how people try to establish their position and how others respond. This awareness will help you make conscious choices about engaging rather than automatically falling into hierarchical patterns. I want to hear from you about your experiences with power dynamics, but please be careful about what you share publicly. In the comments below, tell me which aspect of social hierarchies surprised you most. Was it the neurological basis of hierarchy recognition, the specific tactics people use to climb hierarchies, or the hidden costs of these power games? Don't share specific details about people in your life, but let us know which concepts helped you understand situations you've experienced. Your insights help other viewers recognize similar patterns in their own lives. If this video helped you understand power dynamics that were previously confusing, consider sharing it with someone you trust. Knowledge about these systems is our best defense against manipulation, and the more people who understand these dynamics, the less effective they become. Next week, we're exploring something even more fundamental: how to set psychological boundaries that protect you from all forms of manipulation, including hierarchy games. You'll learn specific techniques for maintaining your position without becoming a target. If you found this deep dive into social hierarchies valuable, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We post new protection strategies every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and each video builds on the previous ones to create a complete psychological defense system. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped you understand power dynamics that were previously invisible to you. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need this critical information about social manipulation. For those ready to go deeper into understanding power dynamics, check out our complete dark psychology defense playlist. We cover everything from workplace manipulation, family power struggles, and online influence tactics. Each video provides specific, actionable strategies for protecting yourself in different environments. Remember, understanding social hierarchies isn't about becoming manipulative or power-hungry yourself. It's about developing the awareness to navigate these systems without becoming a victim. The goal is to maintain your integrity and authenticity while protecting yourself from those exploiting the natural human tendency toward hierarchy. Stay aware, stay protected, and remember, true power comes from understanding the game well enough to choose not to play it destructively. I'll see you in the following video, where we'll explore how to build psychological boundaries that make you immune to hierarchy manipulation.